What's up, everybody? Good to see you guys. Welcome today. Glad that you're with us. Hey, when I say the tipping point, we all think of something, don't we? Maybe for some of you, you think the tipping point, it's about tipping a waitress or a server at a restaurant. For others, you think, man, it's a great tip that I got for the stock market. For others, maybe you think the tip of an iceberg. Maybe for some of you, it's the popular Appalachian sport of cow tipping. If that's you, we have counseling for you after church. We all have something that comes to mind. When I think of the tipping point, I think of Linda and I years ago when we went to the ocean. We decided, hey, we're going to do something that we've never done. We're going to rent a ski-doo. Now, why I thought this would be a great idea, I have no idea, because I don't drive motorcycles, and a ski-doo is essentially a motorcycle that you drive on the water. So we said, let's do this. And I told the gentleman as we were renting, I said, here's the one condition before I rent this thing. I want to make sure that you get me one that will not tip over. It cannot tip over because I am scared to death of sharks, man. I am convinced since 1975 the movie Jaws has just messed me up. I've never been right since in the water. Even getting in the bathtub, I'm always looking around, just convinced. Anyhow, I said, I will rent this thing if it won't tip. He said, oh, sir, no problem. It will not tip over. Well, Linda and I got on the ski-doo and we headed down the ocean. It was great, man. I'm there. The wind is blowing. I felt like David Hasselhoff. It was great. Doing the whole thing until we got to the point where I had to turn around and come back. And when I went to turn, I took my hand off of the accelerator, went into the turn, and wouldn't you know it, bam, we tipped over. Well, I freaked out because I was convinced there were sharks circling the area ready to take off my leg. I wasn't thinking about Linda at the time, I was thinking about me. And suddenly I had this adrenaline rush straight from Jesus. I don't know how I did it to this day. I took the ski-doo, I put it right side up, I grabbed Linda, threw her on, and we headed back to the dock. I got there and I said, man, I thought you said this thing wouldn't tip. He said, what, it tipped? He said, tell me what you did. He said, well, I told him, I said, well, I went into the first turn. I took my hand off the gas and he said, oh. He said, when you took your hand off the gas, that's what contributed to your tipping point and you lost your balance. The question that I have for you today is what's contributing to your tipping point in life where you feel that your life is out of balance? Because if we can't identify the problem, we'll never identify the solution. What's causing your tipping point for your life to be out of balance? For some of us, maybe it's our family. Your in-laws now feel like you're outlaws, and your family is causing you to be out of balance. For others, maybe it's your health. Maybe it's you or someone in your family. There's a health issue, you're struggling, it's taking up all your time and effort, and you feel out of balance. For others, maybe you're in school and it's just a struggle for you right now. You don't know that you're ever going to graduate. You're like 60, you've been in school for the last 40 years. You're like, I'm out of balance in my life. For others, it's the big F, finances. You can't get out from under your financial situation. And then, lastly, maybe it's your marriage. Your marriage feels like it's out of balance. All of these things can lead to a life that feels tilted in one direction or the other. What do we do when we feel stressed out, messed up, that causes us to be overwhelmed in our life, out of balance? Maybe you're here and you're out of balance financially, and you're looking at your financial situation and it's got you freaked out. For others, maybe it's your emotions. You are emotionally exhausted. You just don't feel like you can go one more day. If one more thing gets added to your schedule, you just don't know if you can take it. And for others here today, maybe it's relationships. You know, relationships are like cars. Everyone is taking you somewhere, and if you get in the wrong one, it can wreck your life. Relationships can be like high-maintenance vehicles. If you ever had a high-maintenance vehicle, relationships can be like that. They're always requiring your service and attention, never passing inspection, always stalling out, and you're the one that's always trying to keep it going. Maybe your relationships are out of balance. Whatever it is, I believe that most of us here today, you're trying to put things back in order and you're begging for balance in your life. Balance is the new buzzword, isn't it? Can I just get some balance in my life? I talk to people all the time, man, if I could just get balance back in my life, if I could just balance family and work, if I could balance school and free time, if I just didn't have to run so hard and run so fast and go at this pace all of the time, if there was just a little more money at the end of the month, things would be okay. You just feel out of balance and you just begging for some balance in your life. But what if I told you today that balance is not God's plan for your life? In fact, there's nothing biblical about balance. And God's plan to advance you and to move you forward in your life does not include balance. Think about it. Anyone that's done anything significant, anything memorable, anything that we admire, anyone that we read about in the history books didn't do it from living a balanced life. Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, 1,000 patents, invented the light bulb. I promise you, he spent far more time in the laboratory than he did at his home. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. Sorry, LeBron fans. Number 23, the greatest, spent far more time on the court than he did off the court. How about the Apostle Paul, who wrote over 2/3 of the New Testament? Did he live a balanced life? No, Paul was called by our great God, and I promise you, Paul spent way more time working for the church than he did anything else. His life was not balanced. God's plan for your life is not balance, but God's plan for your life is priorities. Priorities. See, living a balanced life will never take you to the top, but a life without priorities will keep you at the bottom, because priorities will take you farther than balance ever could. It's about priorities in your life. How many of you have iPhones? Put your hand up. For the rest of y'all, we're praying for you that you would be released from the demon of Android. I love my iPhone. Man, I just got the new iPhone 8, and one of the coolest things about my iPhone is the camera. And there's a new thing called portrait mode. Have you seen that? The portrait mode on your new iPhone. And here's what I love about portrait mode. Portrait mode, when you go to take the picture, it identifies the subject or the thing that's most important, and it focuses on that, and it blurs out the things in the background that are less significant. Take a look. Here's an example. There's my daughter, Kaiten, and see, she's very clear with her Starbucks, and the background is blurred out. The point that I want to make is, if you ever want to live the life that you want to live, the life that you desire, at some point you have to live it with a portrait mode in mind, identifying your priorities, focusing on what matters most, and blurring out the things that are inconsequential in your life. You have to live with this portrait mode in mind, where what you're focused on becomes really, really clear, and those other things just seem to blur out. Because for many of us, we look at our schedule and we're like, oh my gosh, we see everything on one plane. We see, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and sometimes we don't even write it down. It's just in our mind, which I've done before, which is way worse. But when we write it down, we see everything on one plane. And what I'm suggesting to you is that you have some depth of field when it comes to the priorities in your life. Depth of field. So everything's not just in one place. We focus on one thing that's most important, and the other things we blur out. Take a look. Let me give you an example. This might look like your schedule. I have to get a haircut. I'd like to do life class, clean the garage, which is at the bottom of most of our list, doctors, groceries, fix the sink, pick up the kids. We go, man, I have so many things to do. But what I'm suggesting is you look at your list and you go, wait a minute, what's most important? And what I'm suggesting is the doctor appointment should be first, because if you don't have your health, you'll never be able to do any of the other things. that we focus on what matters most. We accomplish that, we scratch it off the list. And we go, hey, I'm concerned about my spiritual health, so I'm going to prioritize getting to a life class on Tuesday. That comes into focus, and the rest blurs out. You accomplish that, you scratch it off the list, and then you move on. It's about priorities. See, Jesus believed in priorities, and Jesus taught about priorities in the book of Matthew, and that's where we're going to be today. If you have a Bible, you can open it up to the 5th chapter of the book of Matthew. And Jesus is teaching and preaching on priorities. You know what's interesting? There's a difference between teaching and preaching, because teaching is for information, but how many of you know that preaching is for transformation? And today I'm going to be preaching and believing that there will be transformation in your lives, that you just won't leave here with some information, but rather God's going to do something in your heart, and He's going to change something in your life. There will be transformation as a result of preaching today. And Jesus is giving one of the great sermons of all time. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Maybe you've heard of it. The Beatitudes, found in Matthew starting in chapter 5. And I believe this is really a message on priorities, how we get our priorities together in our life. And the first priority that Jesus talks about is living a blessed life. How many of you want to live a blessed life? Just put your hand up, most of you, right? I know that I do. And Jesus talks about receiving blessing in our life. And it's funny, because when I think of blessing, I go, man, I went to the grocery store and there was a place to park right up front. Oh man, I'm blessed. It was so great. Here's blessing for me. I went to McDonald's drive-thru. I ordered a 4-piece chicken McNugget. They hooked me up with a 10. Oh man, I'm walking in the favor of God today. I'm walking in the fog, favor of God. I'm blessed. But watch what Jesus said. He's got a different opinion about the priority of blessing and what it looks like in our life. Chapter 5, verse 11, it says, God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you. What? And say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Wait a minute. Be happy about it. Are you kidding me? Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you where? In heaven. See, the challenge that some of us have is that we're so caught up in the here and now that we forget that there's also a then and there. And we're going to spend a lot more time, come on, then and there than we are in the here and now. And we can't just think about being blessed right now. You know, my dad was one of the most brilliant men I knew. And he told me a long time ago, he said, Tim, when you make your first $1,000, you're going to be tempted to go out and buy the newest and the coolest thing. But what I'm going to tell you to do is invest that money. Take that $1,000, because there'll be a greater payoff later than there is right now. And what Jesus is suggesting, in this world, there's going to be some struggles, but we got to go ahead and keep doing the right thing, because there'll be a greater, payoff then than there is right now. And sometimes we have to set our sights on the then and there and not just think about the now. And then he goes on and talks about this priority, calling us the salt of the earth. He said, but what good is salt if it lost its flavor? You are the salt of the earth. I love the fact that Jesus is saying that our lives should be flavorful. Isn't that great? That as Christians, we shouldn't be dull and boring and mundane and walk around like everything's wrong and this is bad. No, he's saying that you should bring flavor to every situation that you're in. What flavor are you? Is that a great question? What flavor are you? Are you bringing flavor to the relationships that you're in? Are you bringing the flavor of forgiveness to the world? Are you bringing the flavor of love to the lost? Are you bringing the flavor of hope to the hopeless? What flavor are you? I think it's interesting also that Jesus picked salt. Why would he pick salt? Why would he say, you were the salt of the earth, and then I got it? See, salt makes you thirsty. And Jesus said, I am the living water. And he wants us to make people thirsty for the living water the way that we live our lives. Come on, let's make sure that we're attractional in the way that we're living so others want Jesus, the flavor of forgiveness. Verse 22, he goes on and now he's preaching. Can you see Jesus like preaching? Man, he'd have the hanky out, the B3 organ playing in the background. He's preaching. He said, but if I say, if you are even angry with someone, you're subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you're in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. And I read this and I thought, uh-oh, Tim, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because I don't know about you, but I've called some people some names worse than idiot before. And now I'm going to stand before God and see what he has to say to me about what I said. Can you see it now? I stand before God. God calls me to him, and I'm standing there, and there's God, and there's me, and God says, Tim? And I'm like, I don't know if God's voice would really be like that. I think it would be like lower. I think it would sound much cooler than that. I think it would be like this. Tim? Yeah, like that. I think that would be like, that's cool. That's what God's voice is like. So it would say Tim, and I would say yes. God. He said, let me ask you a question. Did you ever call someone an idiot? And you're not going to lie to God, right? You're going to say, I'm going to say, yeah, God, I call someone an idiot. Well, why did you do that? Well, God, they have the spiritual gift of stupid. I mean, they're just stupid. They're just stupid people. I've told them not to do things, and they go ahead and do it anyhow. I mean, they're just stupid. And at that point, God says, hey, Tim, let me ask you a question. Have you ever done anything stupid that I told you not to do? And I go, I'm backing up, you know. Yeah, pretty much, God. I think I've probably done that. And at that point, God says, why don't you spend less time judging other people and more time working on yourself so that we don't have to have this conversation again. Now, go and sin no more. Case closed. Great question. Check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. And then he goes on and he teaches about the priority of marriage, that we need to hold marriage as a very dear covenant between us and God. And he talks about divorce and how it's not God's plan for your life, that you need to stick it out, that you need to work on it. And he said marriage should be a priority, to hold it in high esteem, high value. And then he goes on and he says this in 39, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also. Now, let me just pause here for a minute. Some of y'all need to get this, because slapping you on this cheek, it doesn't mean that you turn to this cheek, okay? So let's make it clear. He's saying this cheek. If you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. What's Jesus saying? You're different. He said, I've designed you to be different. I've made a deposit in your life for you not to blend in. Come on, but you're designed to stand out. That you're supposed to be someone different that the world can look to and go, wow, I want to be whatever that is. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Don't do the minimum, do the maximum. Come on, let's be a church that goes to the next level in everything that God has called us to do. Let me give you an example of what this looks like in real life. It means that you're not the last one to show up at work. It means you're the first one to show up at work. It means that you're not the first one to leave work. It means that you're the last one to leave work. You're not seeing how you can just skim by, but you want to do all that you can do. You want to do everything and anything in order to move the kingdom of God forward, because people are watching you. You are the salt of the earth. What's the flavor in your life like? Are you doing the least amount, just trying to get by? Or are you going to the next level? Let's not simply do the minimum when you were designed for the maximum. Is this helping anybody today? Is this helping somebody? Good. Verse 44, and it just keeps getting more and more challenging, doesn't it? I love the fact that Jesus knows what we're capable of, and he wants us to live that life. Like he's pushing us. And man, I love when people challenge me. People that know, hey, you've got more in you. I want to get it out of you. And this is where Jesus said, but let's go to the next level. I say, love your enemies. Wow. Pray for those who persecute you. Pray for those that come against you. And that way, you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. Pray for those people that are coming against me? Wow. That's challenging, God. Jesus, how do I do it? Well, Jesus always gives us answers to every question that we ask. And if we fast forward a couple chapters, we find this thing called the Lord's Prayer and how to pray. Now, the interesting thing about the Lord's Prayer is many people, including churches, recite the Lord's Prayer. They say it as it was written in the context of the Bible. However, Jesus was saying, don't just pray this methodical way. Don't just kind of recite things without it really being in your heart. I believe Jesus is suggesting, here's a template for how to pray. So let's quickly break it down. Let's look at the thing called the Lord's Prayer and see what Jesus is really saying. If we'll take a look here on the screen, it says, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Does that mean that you're going to have an art brush and do art in heaven? No. It means, God, you are a holy God that resides in a holy place. You are not the big man upstairs, but rather you are the creator of the universe. And when you speak, things happen. That we are to revere a holy God who resides in a holy place. Our Father, you are our heavenly Father. You love us. We are your children. It goes on to say, Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God, we want what's up there to come down here. We want your kingdom to be our kingdom that you made possible when you sent Jesus here. We can have heaven on earth through the way that we live our lives, through our relationship with you. Your kingdom come. And then he said, your will be done. At this point, Jesus is challenging us to surrender what we want for what he wants. Because his way is always better than our way. And what we're saying is, Jesus, we surrender to you. You are the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Whatever it is that you ask me to do, I trust you, I put my faith in you, and I believe it's the best way to live my life. Let's go on to the next. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we've forgiven our debtors. Some people have said trespasses and trespassers. Jesus, we believe that all we have is a result of you allowing us to have it. So provide everything that we need. Give us this day our daily bread, the things that we need to survive. And then watch. Forgive us, Heavenly Father. And through the power of your forgiving us, we now have the power to forgive our enemies, and we'll begin to pray for them that they'll come into the knowledge that you are God and you can do for them what you did for me. Let's go to the next. And lead us not into temptation. Keep me away from anything that's going to mess me up. And for some of you, this is how this should read. Keep me away from certain people that I've been hanging out with because they are taking my life in a direction that it does not need to go. Because if you put yourself in a position to fail, don't be surprised when you do. Lead me not to temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. Keep us at bay from Satan and his tricks. And notice it does not say, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever, amen, because that is not found in the Bible. That was actually added years later. So that's how Jesus says to pray, this model. So I'm suggesting, church, this is how we pray. Not to recite, but the template from our heart and how to communicate with God. So then he goes from there, and then he starts teaching on money. Oh no, people get funny when you talk about money. And he spends more time on the chapter of money than any other chapter. And I believe he realizes it's something that can overwhelm us and keep us from being obedient to God and missing out on the blessings of God. And here's what he said in verse 24. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, what I'm about to say, if you are not following Jesus, if you don't consider yourself a Christian, if you're here just checking it out, maybe kind of testing your faith, you are off the hook from this. This does not apply to you. But for the rest of us that we call ourselves Christians, I have one question to ask you that will identify if you are enslaved to money, if money has a grip in your life. And here's the question. Are you bringing God's tithe back into his house? If the answer is yes, I believe you've been broken from the curse of finances. If the answer is no, I'm praying for transformation in your life, and you begin to prioritize God's word, begin to apply it in your life. Because listen what I'm telling you, God does not want something from you, he wants something for you. And until you become obedient and do what he says, you'll never experience the blessing of God in your life. Are you enslaved to money, or have you been set free from the curse, trusting God and being obedient to his word? Look at the next verse. Then he says, so don't worry about these things, saying, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? What he's saying is really, these are the things that overwhelm us, right? The things that stress us out, that mess us up. Oh, do I have enough money? Am I going to be able to get the kids to where they need to go? My schedule is so full. What do I do? What do I do? He's saying, don't worry about all these things. He said, these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. In other words, if you're not following Jesus, this is how your life should look. But if you are following Jesus, what are you thinking? This isn't how your life should be. Your life should be different than that. Your Heavenly Father already knows all of your needs. And all of these things, all of these priorities lead up to the one verse that I believe potentially is the most important verse in all of Scripture. The number one priority. And here's what Jesus said. Seek first the kingdom of God and act righteously, and then he will give you everything you need. You want to move from stressed to blessed? Here it is. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then you're going to get everything else you need. Seek first. Everybody say first. First, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Jesus is saying there's a correct order in order for you to have order in your life. Did you get that? There's a correct order in order for you to have order in your life. Now, we are all in different seasons in our life, and seasons change. You have kids, and they're young kids, and then they grow, and that's a different season for you. And your priorities will shift. Things are going to change, but there is one priority that should never change, and that's God first. Seek first the kingdom of God, because when you seek God first, it will bring clarity to your clutter. It will clear up some things that you're struggling with. See, some of you, I believe, feel stuck. I've talked to enough of you. You feel like, man, I'm stuck. I just can't seem to go forward. Things are out of balance in my life. And I don't know what to do. And what I want to tell you is, in order to see things change in your life, you have to make a change in your life. In order to see things differently, you have to do things differently in your life. And some of you are just stuck. I put it like this. Some of you are spiritually constipated, and you need to shift your priorities. And the only way you do that, come on, you need a holy shift in your life to get unstuck and be able to move, come on, to where God wants you to go. You got to have a holy shift. Your priorities have to change. So many people, man, I'm stuck. And I see on Facebook and I see in social media people just kind of complaining, and I hear this whole thing, man, I can't seem to get it together. Here's the question. Where's God in your mix? Where's God in your mix? Is he a last resort, or is he a first priority? Are you seeking him first, or just when you're at your bottom, you think, man, maybe I need to turn to God? Where's God in the mix? Where is the priority of getting to God's house in your life? Where's the priority of church? Are you seeking God's house first, and are you making it a priority? Or, I don't really have anything else going on, I think I'll squeeze it in. Let's look at what God has to say about that. Isaiah 58, verses 13 and 14. But first, everyone say first, you must start respecting the Sabbath as a joyful day of worship. You must stop doing and saying, whatever you please on this special day. Translation, Sunday fun day, man. It's my day, it's my only day off. Oh man, this is the day that I take my kids and we go out and we kind of hang out. This is my day I go hunting, man. It's Sunday, it's my only day. This is the day that my kids play sports. This is the day that it's my only day, so my family, we just kind of hang out on that day. I don't have anything else going on. Listen to what God says. You must stop doing and saying whatever you please on this special day. You need to set it aside for God. You need to prioritize getting to the house of God. Then you will truly enjoy knowing the Lord. See, He always sets it up. Like, if you do this, then this is going to happen. He will let you rule from the highest mountains and bless you with the land of your ancestor Jacob. The Lord has spoken. Listen, church isn't a man's idea. Church is God's idea. Church is a God idea. And I know that trends say, oh, people just attend church far and far less often than they used to. People used to go every weekend. But now it's like there's nothing else going on. So, man, I think I'll try to get to church. That's what trends say. But listen, I just want to say, at the Experience Church, we don't follow trends, we set trends. Can somebody help me preach for a minute? Let's be the church that says, I don't care what everyone else is doing. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's the weekend, and I'm going to get to the house to lift up the name of God that saved me, that pulled me up from the muck and mire. I'm going to worship Him. I'm going to give Him all that I have. I'm not going to leave anything on the table. I'm going to get my family there. I don't care what other people are doing. I don't care what the trends say. It's the weekend, and I'm going to get to the house of God, because the Word tells me, then you will truly enjoy knowing the Lord, not just knowing about God, knowing the Lord. You can sit down. Let's make a decision that it's not just an option. That when, come on, it's the weekend, we're going to get to the house. It's going to be a priority. Let me ask you this. Are you putting God first in your finances? Oh, it got quiet. Let me just tell you something about Linda and I. Linda and I have not struggled financially for 22 years. We've never worried. We've never been overwhelmed. Is it because I make $1 squillion? Heck to the no. Most of you make more than I do. Let me tell you the secret. You ready? Lean in. Here's the secret. We've been faithfully bringing the tithe back to God's house for 22 years, and God's promises are true. And you'll never experience it until you start to do it. Is God first in your finances? Do you give Him the leftovers? Oh, I got a few left over. Or are you prioritizing Him? Fathers, men, are you being the man that God called you to be in your household? Are you leading the way that God's called you to lead in your house at home? Are you showing an example? What flavor are you living your life in front of your kids? Or are you just kind of being one way on the weekend and then at home and at work we're a different place? Listen, who you are isn't optional depending on where you are. Oh, come on, somebody. We are who we are because we are who God called us to be, not based off of our feelings. Fathers, are you living that life? Are you showing your kids, man, I'm getting to the house of God? Well, we want to play basketball, Dad. Hey, let me tell you something. You can play basketball on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but on the weekend, we're getting to the house. Moms, What are you showing your kids by the way that you live? Are they seeing you freak out? Are they seeing you in panic mode, depressed? Or are they seeing, man, my faith is in the one that is in the name above all names. My faith is in the one that rescued me, and if he did it before, he can do it again. Mom, are you running your kids to soccer and to violin lessons? Or are you saying, I'm going to run them also on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever day it's going to be, to 412, and I'm going to get them here where middle school and high school kids are meeting and having their lives radically changed? It's about priorities, isn't it? That's all it is. What's first, man? What's first in your life? What's your priority? But when you say, listen, when you say yes to one thing, it's going to require you to say no to something else. And there's going to have to be a shift. And you're going to have to start saying no to good so you can say yes to God. Oh, somebody tweet that. You're going to have to say no to good so you can say yes to God. How do I get my life back in balance? Well, it's really simple. Not as simple as I thought. Here's the key. God first. God first. And when you put God first, I don't care what's happening in your life, it will always tip your scales in your favor. God first will tip the scale in your favor. That's where the blessing is. You were born looking like your parents, but you will die looking like your decisions. What decisions are you making for you and your house and your family to move forward, to advance your life? God's given us the keys to the kingdom. All we have to do is open the door. Seek first his kingdom, and then all of these things will be given unto you. Let's pray together and ask that you bow your heads and close your eyes. Father, thank you today for just an opportunity to be in your house. God, to be with your church where I believe transformation is taking place. I'm going to ask you to keep your heads bowed and eyes closed. And I don't know your story. I don't know where you are. I don't know the details of your life. But I know we all have a tipping point, and many of you walked in and you were pretty close to that place. But you just heard how to kind of reverse what's been going on in your life, that it doesn't have to continue the way that it started. And here's what I'm going to ask you. See, everything that God calls us to do, it requires us to do something. And what I'm going to ask you to do, for anyone that's here, that you're ready to see things turn around in your life in a holy moment, with every head bowed and every eye closed. For anyone that says, I'm going to put God first. Man, Tim, something spoke to me today, Pastor, and I'm going to change some things in my life. I might say no to some things so I can say yes to some other things. With every head bowed, if that's you right now, I just want you to slip your hand up in the air and say, that's me. I'm going to change some things. I'm going to start seeking God. Yeah, hands going up all over the room. Wow. I'm going to start seeking God first. Yes, hands up all over the room. Hands still going up. Still going up. Just put your hand up. I'm going to change some things in my life. Hands still up. Father, I pray for every hand that is raised. God, I believe right now you're speaking to their heart. God, that you're moving in their life, that you're encouraging them. God, that it doesn't matter what yesterday looked like. Today is a new day where we can make new changes, God, and we can start to put our life in a new direction. God, we give you all the glory because you're the one that changes our story. We love you. We honor you. We worship you. God, we're going to put you first here at TE Church. And we believe with all of our heart that because the tomb is empty, we have reason to rejoice. Come on, and the best is still yet to come. Come on, if you believe it, let him hear it today. If you receive it, God bless you guys today.